Please help me welcome tonight's keynote speaker, 2002 recipient of ICONJ Scholarship. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Carr.
Good evening, everyone. Although protocol has been established, I would like to thank ICONJ for this wonderful opportunity. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with you all this evening. My fiancée, Chanel, to my friends and family that were able to come here tonight, as well as those that haven't, I give you thanks. Firstly, I would like to give homage to the late Steve Jobs. In 2005, he gave a commencement speech at Stanford University, and it really resonated with me. He spoke of 3 stories, much of which consisted of very pivotal points in his life. Events that were seemingly devastating on the surface turned out to have a profoundly positive impact looking back. It is important to understand that some of the trials and tribulations we face are necessary because they pave the way for a greater future. With that, I would like to share a few stories of my own that are quite different, some of which were extremely difficult to overcome, but ultimately made me a better man. Dr. Martin Luther King once stated, "Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but it comes through continuous struggle." I can attest to that, as my life has been a tale of continuous struggle, as well as change. The first story begins when I stayed back in the 7th grade. Here's the kicker. After failing summer school, some people may be wondering, what's this fool doing up here? Rather than look at this from a linear perspective, I invite you to delve a bit deeper with me. Elementary school was interesting, to say the least. In essence, I did not fit in, and I acted out. Growing up, I was a skinny and geeky kid, socially awkward, and a late bloomer. Because I was born in October, I was younger than most of my classmates. I was bullied, made fun of, laughed at, and ridiculed at times. I did not have a lot of friends, and I dreaded going to school. I didn't pay much attention to what was going on in the classroom, and I was highly unmotivated. Instead, I found solace in mischief. I felt the need to vent my frustrations. I allowed negative influences to impact me, and I made poor choices. My parents tried to instill positive qualities in me, but all of that goes out the window once you are amongst your peers. During that time, I did not care about much. I just went through the motions on a daily basis and scooted right along. And I was able to get away with that right up to the 7th grade. Things finally caught up with me, and I failed math class. The teacher recommended that I attend summer school before advancing to the 8th grade. Instead of working hard, I played around. I did not pay attention in class at summer school either, and I failed miserably. During my time in summer school, I did not process the severity of my actions or lack thereof. The following school year, my name was still on the 8th grade roster, so I went to classes that they told me to in hopes that the summer school records would not be reported. 2 days passed, nothing happened. I thought that everything was going to be fine and I would be able to graduate on time with the rest of my classmates. On the 3rd day, the principal comes into my classroom, calls me as well as another student that did the same thing. They took me from the 8th grade classrooms and they sent me to the 7th grade classrooms. I was mortified. I held my head in shame and I was escorted out of class. I became a new student again. I had to get acclimated to a completely different group of people and it didn't feel good. It was very embarrassing watching the people that were classmates since kindergarten continue without me. We would see each other in between classes down the hall. The experience served as a constant reminder that I messed up. Yet it did not change me. I felt alienated and still wasn't doing well in class. I managed to get average grades in most of my classes, but failed English the first semester. My English class also served as my homeroom, and I spent more than half of the day in there. The teacher failed me because he understood that I had potential and I did not apply myself. Once the report card for my first semester came in, my family was very unhappy. My eldest brother, Sean, had a stern talk with me. He expressed the pain he felt as he watched me, as he saw me throwing my life away. At that very moment, something clicked, and I had a moment of clarity. I finally understood how my actions were not only hurting myself, but others as well. Just like that, I started to turn my life around. I still keep a report card that documented my progress over that school year, and it reads, Semester 1, Gary could be one of my top students. He just needs to try harder. Semester 2, Gary has improved significantly. Semester 3, Gary has become a class act here this cycle. Keep up the great work. Semester 4, Gary has really made me proud this year. His grades are the product of great upbringing and hard work. It has really been a pleasure. Interestingly enough, I began to excel in all my classes. Just a year ago, I was held back because of math class. Yet the very next year, I was selected to participate in a math Olympics. I felt proud representing my school in a regional competition. I placed in the advanced math classes when I proceeded to the 8th grade and took advanced classes every year after that. I was also accepted to the best magnet school in Newark for the creative and performing arts. Arts High School provided a cultivating environment for me to thrive creatively. I became involved in extracurricular programs such as Upward Bound at Essex County College and Science Explorers at the Newark Museum. These programs allowed me to tour colleges and universities in and out of state for free, work during the summer, gain real-life work experience, additional class assistance, and so much more. I became enthused with the thought of attending college. I understood the value of hard work, and I was motivated to succeed. As a result of having good grades and impressive portfolio, I was accepted to one of the best art schools on the East Coast. I am incredibly grateful for the education I received at Tyler School of Art at Temple University. Many of the tools and resources I rely on daily, being whether I use them at the job or my own business, were learned at Tyler and Arts High. The trajectory of my life was on an incremental incline. I went from excelling in elementary school to the top 25 of 114 students to the top 15% of over 2,700 students at Temple University. I graduated with honors, and I made my family proud. I would never have envisioned this during my childhood. Imagine if I was scurried along to the 8th grade. There is no way my life would have turned out this way. There would be no Arts High School, no scholarships, no Tyler School of Art, and my life would have played out much different. I am thankful for the teachers that took action when they did, because it changed everything. Staying back was one of the best things that ever happened to me. What initially started as an embarrassment and shameful experience turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It allowed me to recalibrate my life and move toward a more suitable path. Another story I would like to share started about 9 years ago. Shortly after graduating college, I landed a decent job. Stayed there for about 9 months until I found an even better job. At 24 years of age, I was working for a major clothing company in the Empire State Building. On the surface, it seemed like a dream job. I had salary plus overtime, car service home, paid dinner if I worked late. The staff consisted of a lot of young and talented individuals. People worked hard and played hard. We would hang out once the day was over, go to dinners, parties together, you name it. Everything seemed perfect, and it lasted about a year. However, things finally caught up with me, and I was terminated. Ultimately, I did not make a great impression with some of the members on the management team, and I was not the best fit for the company. I wasn't very passionate about I'm a graphic designer. I'm an illustrator, but I took a job as an assistant designer, which is a very different line of work. I wasn't very passionate about my role as an assistant designer. Even though there were many advantages to staying at the job, I always viewed it as a means to an end and a learning experience. Once the housing crisis just started to take effect, companies everywhere began restructuring and letting people go. And I was one of them. That day they told me, it was a pleasure having you with us. Here's 1 week's severance, file for unemployment right away. So I did. I was unemployed and dismayed. I did freelance work for a few companies every so often, bounced around a bit. but I felt highly unfulfilled and lost. On one hand, I was powerless. On the other hand, I was liberated. Although my time at the job was pretty good for the most part, it was one of the fastest years of my life. I went to work when it was dark, and I came back home when it was dark. I was unable to do anything other than relax for a few hours before coming home, resting, getting up, and doing it all over again. Allow me to digress a bit before moving to my next point. During my senior year in college, right after I graduated, I worked at Temple University's Small Business Development Center. While working there, I had a chance to design for a series of startups and small businesses. We would consult with them and do small projects. My time working there showed me how people just like myself can create something, present it to the public, and these are people that started their businesses from nothing. They had an idea, they strategized, they planned, they saved up, and they made a move. I always had aspirations to someday run a business of my own, but working there gave me insights that aided me in the process. My partner James and I entered a competition for businesses that operated in Philadelphia. We wrote a business plan and advanced the first 2 rounds. The day after graduating college, we had to present our business in front of a panel of judges. Surprisingly, we won. There were 6 winners out of 160 business applicants, and we were one of those winners. I was always impassioned to run a business of my own. Getting terminated was one of the best ways to accelerate the process. While unemployed, I made a conscious decision to focus on building my business. I also understood that I needed to have a steady source of income until my business could sustain itself. Ultimately, I found a job at a smaller company as a contractor, and I took a pay cut. This company was started by a group of brothers, and they have been in business over 40 years. For me, I was less concerned about the money and more concerned about building my business. I explained my plans to my employer, and as unconventional as that may seem, I deemed it a necessity. And it gave me the flexibility I needed for my business to grow. I was no longer confined to the proverbial 2 weeks vacation, limited sick days, or anything that accompanies a traditional 9 to 5. While working for this company, I had the chance to work late nights when needed, which was practically all the time. I would work on my business until 2 and 3 a.m. and go to the office later that morning. Mobile and web software were new frontiers for me, and I had to study extensively to learn it. When you own a business, it's important to understand all aspects of day-to-day operations. If you want to own a McDonald's, you must get a degree in hamburgerology. That means that you must learn how to cook the burgers and all other aspects of the job. If your employees or management is unable to show up for work for whatever reason, guess who has to take their place? I spent time going to different trade shows, studying, reading thousands of articles and resources, scouring forums, watching seminars online, networking, meetups, building relationships, business consultations, speaking engagements, and I met some of the most talented people while doing it. Many of them were just like me, ambitious, hardworking people pursuing their dreams. There is no way I would have been able to do this with a job I had. The final story begins shortly after I began my business 8 years ago. I was excited about starting my business, and I worked hard. My first project was an incredibly ambitious one. I felt the desire to go all out before having a firm grasp of the market. I shared my vision with several people, and they helped me complete this project. It took over 1,000 man-hours collectively and a substantial portion of the money I was able to borrow from the bank. It flopped. It nearly cost me everything. I could not understand why the software application did not do well. I earned about 15% of the money I invested in the project, and it was a disheartening experience. I could not understand what I was doing wrong. It gave me time to reflect and regroup. I released a slightly different project afterward, and that one flopped as well. I began to take a deeper look into the market, investigating what was working and what wasn't. After a thorough investigation, I started to work on my third application. At this time, I was on my last leg. I was frustrated. I was on the brink of giving up. My developer at the time was substandard. The application was extremely buggy, and it did not capture the nuances I wanted. After working with the developer several months trying to perfect it, and still having an unsatisfactory product, and nearly running out of money, I instructed him to release it to the public anyway. Ironically, once he did that, it exploded. Bugs and all, it didn't matter. People began to use this application by the thousands, and we were surging in the ranks. This was my first taste of success, and it felt good. Not only was I able to recuperate the money I invested in that application, I was able to recuperate the money I used in the previous two as well. This software application left me with a surplus, and I was cash flow positive. The knowledge I gained from my first two experiences allowed me to see where I went wrong and what I needed to do moving forward. Although this story may not seem as pivotal as the other two, it's important because it serves as the groundwork for my future. My software applications have been downloaded and used by millions of people around the world. Also, I serve as a consultant for separate businesses that want to learn how to develop applications. It's never about the shortcomings or the mishaps or falling outs, but how you respond to them. I took it upon myself to make the changes I did when unfortunate things happened. I did not have to respond like that, which brings me to my next point. When life knocks you down, and believe me, on several occasions it will, don't stay there. As Dr. King eloquently stated, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands at the moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at the times of challenge and controversy. Throughout his entire life, right up to his assassination, Dr. King was faced with challenges and controversy of all kinds. He was arrested, beaten, threatened, and nothing stopped him from continuing to move forward his plan. He sacrificed everything for something he firmly believed in, which is exactly why we honor him this weekend. Some people may speculate that just because I was born in Newark, New Jersey, failing was highly probable. Here's the thing. Struggle and strife builds character. It can make you a more resilient individual, or it can sink you. Spiritual tenacity is necessary when dealing with adversity when it arrives. In life, there are two kinds of people. Those whom will use unfortunate circumstances as a reason for their failures, and those whom will use unfortunate circumstances to fuel their ambitions. This parent did this, my environment didn't do that. There comes a time in everyone's life where we must hold ourselves accountable for the decisions we make. Some of the most successful people began with extremely unfortunate circumstances. No parents, abuse, neglect, rape, and everything in between. However, they miraculously found a way to succeed nonetheless. We should never allow our past to dictate our future. I attribute much of my success to my failures. If these missteps did not happen when they did, I would not be here. Some people would refer to it as fate or destiny, but I think this life is formulaic in several ways. We all have a series of attributes. Some are more dexterous or athletic, while others may be nurturers or educators. We all have weaknesses, and no single person is good at everything. Life has a sense of balancing itself out. Some of the poorest countries I have been to surprisingly have the happiest people. Less time stressed and more time with family. The same rules apply when bad things happen to us. Every cloud has a silver lining. When tragic situations take place, it's important to look for the stars to align somewhere in your life. It may spawn from the same situation grieving you, or it may come in the form of something completely different. It is incumbent upon you to find out what that is, where and when it may happen. To the honorees, as we celebrate you here tonight, as we marvel at your success, I would like for you to remember this. One of the most important things in life is to remain steadfast in the face of adversity. The world at times can be a cruel and unforgiving place. We must understand that the trials and tribulations we face are just mere obstacles in our path, and we must figure out how to use them as building blocks to reach our goal. Paul Tudor Jones is the founder of the Robin Hood Foundation, and he once said that failure is the fire that forges the steel to success. I can agree more. I am a proponent of what I would like to refer to as the AAA process. Adapt, learn your craft. Adept, master your craft. Adopt, teach your craft to someone who is willing to learn. I am somewhere between the second and third phase. As we are here celebrating the 25th anniversary of ICONJ's Black and Gold Scholarship Dinner, I would like to emphasize the importance of community and family. This event embodies it. The great work that has been done over the past quarter century has positively affected tens of thousands of people, to say the least. What is taking place here is more important than ever. The element of community is being lost nowadays. And we live in a generation that looks out for oneself. As long as I take care of me, everything's gonna be fine. What other people deal with, that's their problem. It's only a matter of time until it becomes our problem as well. I was able to graduate from Temple University because of organizations like ICONJ. Freshman year, I entered with over $5,000 in scholarship funding from nearly a dozen places, separate from any grant or loan. I took out whatever loans I could, but it wasn't enough. My mother took out a Parent Plus loan. Other family members contributed. My other family members contributed what they could, and I spent a considerable amount of time in the financial aid office. The financial aid staff on 2 campuses, 30 minutes from each other, all knew me well. When I was provided with a cell phone, financial aid was in my top 5 favorites. There were my parents, 2 siblings, and financial aid. Going to their office was like when a regular walks into a bar, like Cheers. That was financial aid. Every scholarship that came up I knew about, every possible grant, every possible loan, dozens of essays in an unwavering spirit. I look back and realize that it is a miracle that I graduated. During my sophomore year, I was in dire need of a computer. I was in a highly competitive environment and I needed to keep up with the other students. The first computer I purchased was the result of receiving an $800 money order from a relative that was incarcerated at the time. For those of you that may not know, inmates make under 50 cents an hour and a maximum salary of $4.73 per day. Do the math. I take none of this for granted, and I understand the only reason I graduated was because of the contributions I received. At times, I wanted to give up, but then I remember those that have helped me along the way, and I continue to strive forward. I received the scholarship from ICONJ 15 years ago, and to come up here and to speak to you all is such an honor. Things have come full circle. My mother passed away 5 years ago, but she was a benevolent spirit. She instilled the importance of giving back in all of us. I never forgot about those that paved the way for me. In honor of the late Mignon Carr, and for those that have helped me along the way, I am making a pledge. In 2017, I am going to personally provide 4 Apple laptop computers to young people in need. I will be working with ICONJ to find eligible candidates. To be eligible, you must either be a high school senior, transitioning into college, or recently incarcerated. It is equally important to acknowledge both demographics. The second we look at those with cynicism before getting the facts is when we have failed as a society. I spoke of my setbacks, and for some of these individuals, prison is their setback. Do some people belong in there? Absolutely. Many are unable to be rehabilitated. However, to outright dismiss all of them is a grave mistake. I know a lot of good people that were caught up in the system. It could have easily happened to me just the same. Eligible candidates must pursue a career path that involves a computer. We're not just giving away computers for people to browse the internet, but to work extensively and train for a profession that demands it. We live in the age of clean energy, interconnected web, and globalization. As trends change, so must we. Coding, UI design, graphic design, computer animation, information systems, IT are some of the current professions in high demand. Coding, for instance, being whether it's C++, Objective-C, Java, Swift, C#, Python, PHP, Ruby on Rails, or anything else, has an unemployment rate of less than 2%. College students are earning 6-figure salaries right out of school because they know how to code. Some may speculate that you have to be a math whiz to learn how to code, and that simply isn't true. Coding is essentially about solving problems. You have a 5-gallon jug and a 3-gallon jug with no markers. How do you use both jugs accurately to make 4 gallons? If you are resourceful and you have decent problem-solving skills, you can become a coder. Trends are rapidly changing, and programmers and coders are the most sought-after professionals today. Even if you are in between jobs, programming can provide a source of supplemental income. As I make this pledge, I also pose a challenge to everyone. I challenge you to contribute in the best way you know how. We all have different gifts and attributes. Use it. There is something everyone can do. Efforts must be made to restore the community and family that we have been losing over the past several years. It takes a village to raise a village. Let's restore humanity, folks. Please remember that for every person that gives, one less person has to take. Be blessed and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Carr.